Vengeful Asian female ghosts are one of my favorite flavors of horror movies. While growing up, Samara, Sadako, and Kayako are superstars to me. Their DVD cases stood out in every single Blockbuster and local video store, so how could a child resist? Their film scarred me as a child so much that occasionally I still have trouble staying in the dark now as an adult. This style of ghost, known as an onryo, spirits who torment the living as a form of vengeance for how they were treated in life. While originally from Japanese folklore, they captured the eyes of viewers from all around the world. Yet nowadays, films starring them are nowhere to be seen outside of Japan mostly. A typical moviegoer may be familiar with these icons, but today I'm hoping to introduce you to another film starring a ghost of the same variety that doesn't get as much love. From 2004's Chatte Kotidwinya, known in English as Shudder. Meet Ned. I'm going to save details about her until we get to the appropriate points in the story, so anyways, let's get into it. The movie opens up with a group of friends who are drinking at the end of this guy's wedding. They're friends, but meet our two main characters, Hun and Jane. They're a couple and they like to do kissing stuff. They joke about the groom cheating on his wife, but she walks in and is oblivious to the fact that her husband kind of sucks. Cut to Jane and Tun driving back home. He's drunk and staring at her in the face because, you know, he wants a little bit of that. Holy shit, they hit something, and the car spins out of control. Tun hits his head on the window, and the car comes to a stop. That something appears to be a student who is wearing the Thai national uniform for university students. They see a car approaching, so they drive off quickly. Cut to Tun taking graduation photos for a young woman. During the group photo, he sees the ghost just standing there. No jump scare. Creepy shit. He doesn't freak out and just kind of goes on. Later in the apartment, it has a red room, by the way. He talks to Jane, and she says she feels bad about what happened, but he's like, fuck that noise, and keeps going on with his day. He goes to get his developed pictures and he sees that they're all ruined. The shopkeep checks the negatives and sees that they're the problem. Come back to the apartment and Jane returns looking for Tun. She goes to the red room and sees movement underneath the door, but as she leans down, the doorknob malfunctions. It stops and then she heads in. There's a mess and the sink is overflowing. Eventually spooky shit starts and the sink starts overflowing with water and hair and then even fingers. Jane tries to bolt, but the door is malfunctioning again, so she's stuck watching this until this dead girl screams loud enough for her to wake up. Tun and her are now sitting on the couch. Jane takes a look at the grad photos and she notices something. It's the face of the ghost standing behind their friend. She's freaked out, but he says it's nothing. Like, okay, dude, there's a ghost. There's a bitch right there. Later on, they're outside and they see a wall full of road accident photos. FYI, Thailand is ranked 9th in the world for road accidents. We see a photo of what I hope is not actual gore. I'm still gonna censor it anyways, and I'm pretty sure it's not because it has that ghost blur shit on it. Then they drive back to where the car swerved off the road and they see construction fixing up the sign that they hit. They ask a construction guy if anyone was hurt in the accident and he's like, nah. So they drive off confused. Tun makes a phone call to some hospitals and to the police to see if anyone was hurt, but nothing. Jane is concerned, but Tun tries to brush it off. Whew, crisis averted, am I right? Cut back to the red room and Tun is developing his photos and he stares at the ghost's face. Sorry about that. Cut back to the shopkeep and he says that Tun needs to go to the temple because this is some ghost shit. He then shows off some fake ghost photos that were a result of the developing process because ghosts aren't actually real. Cut to Jane in her university lecture hall. The professor is talking about photos, but she's zoned off. Probably think about that girl that she definitely hit. Then cut to Jane at a magazine stand and she pulls out a magazine with the headline of Spirit Pictures. Cut back to Tun's red room. Jane walks in and the phone rings, so Tun goes to pick it up and it's Jane? So who the fuck is in the red room? Tun goes to check it out and it's just that drippy ass sink. Cut to them driving in the car. They're on the way to talk to the Spirit Picture magazine people that Jane saw earlier. Tun tells Jane that his neck really hurts, but it's not a big deal. They arrive and the guy at the magazine place is a bit defensive and we see that they actually fake ghost photos. So they speak to the boss who says, yeah, they fake him because the fakes make more money. But then he shows him a real ghost photo and it's a confirmed real photo because it's a photo of him as a child and that dead ghost is his dead mom. He says that sometimes ghosts just want to be close to the people that they love and that's why they return from the dead. So keep that in mind going forward. We then see a montage of ghost photos and it's so ominous, but like imagine how the ghosts are actively posing for these photos. Anyways, Tun says fuck that, they can be photoshopped, so Big Boss pulls up Polaroids. How the fuck you gonna fake those, asshole? I don't know, and neither does Tun because he shuts the fuck up. Jane asks how to know why the ghosts are there and the boss says maybe the answer is in the photo. Cut to Tun at work taking wedding photos. They finish it up and as he's packing up the lights start to go haywire. The flash on the camera starts going off, breaking up the darkness. We get a jump scare before Tun manages to turn the lights back on. Cut to Tun at the doctor's. He's getting his weight checked and the nurse is confused. They do some more tests and at the end they say his neck pain may be muscle strain from the car accident, but he's a-okay. So they send him off with a neck brace and some painkillers. While he's picking up his medicine, he hears a woman's voice calling him a liar. He gets startled and bolts out of there without the medicine. Cut to later, he's watching a documentary about mating praying mantises while he's looking at photos. I guess he doesn't like him because he tosses them aside. Next we see him at a uni and he's walking around without his neck brace. He's looking for Jane. He walks up to her, but she's bleeding out of her face and bam, it was a nightmare. He goes to drink some water and sees his apartment doors open. A dark figure walks by, but it's no ghost. It's Thun, the groom from the start of the movie. He's asking Thun for the photos of that bitch. Thun says that he doesn't have him. Thun then goes to call someone and we see Thun's face because he's seeing something that is scaring him. Thun turns around and Thun is gone. Later on, Jane returns to see Thun going through his stuff. He lies and said he's cleaning up and his neck is still sore. He lied about the cleaning up part, not his neck being sore. That shit probably hurts. Jane accidentally knocks over some photos and she picks up one and notices something. The ghost blur marks in each are over one particular window in the background. Cut to Jane going to investigate with a Polaroid camera. She goes to the same room from the photos. It's filled with jars of preserved and taxidermied animals. She takes a picture of the window from the inside and nothing. She then walks through the middle of the shelves and takes a picture and she sees a ghost.
Oh, holy shit, holy fuck.
Hooray! No. There's a scare and then a framed picture drops off the wall. She goes to look and it's a picture of a woman by the name of which is awkward because she's the woman that Jane remembers hitting with her car. Cut to Tun. He goes to check on Thun at his place. He walks right in and it's trash. Simultaneously, we see Jane checking old photos of Netnapa until she finds a photo of her and Tun. Back to Tun at Thun's. He sees his wedding photos have the same ghost blurs, but just then he sees Thun climbing over the railing of his apartment. By the time Tun runs, he sees Thun's body laying there. Dead. Cut to later. The police and Jane are there now as Thun's wife arrives. She says that Thun is dead because of Tun and their friends. Apparently all her friends have been committing unaliving by jumping off buildings as well. Tun is the last of their friend group who is still alive. Later on, Jane confronts Tun about the woman in the photo, asking if she is the ghost and how she connects to Tun. He then tells us the story. Her nickname was Net and he knew her in university. She was a weird girl that nobody liked despite being not ugly and like kind of cute. They dated, but he kept it a secret because he was embarrassed. It's a tale as old as time. A girl who is too good for the guy that she's with, head over heels in love with a guy who is indifferent and an asshole. We see him pretend to not know her as his friends bully her. He just lays his head down.
This guy's a bitch.
He says that eventually he broke up with her and then he catches her cutting up herself in his red room as she tells him that she's gonna unalive herself. He says he told his friends and they took care of her and that he never saw her again. Jane is like, dude, what the fuck? And then she caresses him as he cries. Cut to later. Tun takes some medicine while spilling water all over the place.
This guy sucks.
Cut again. They are now driving and they make a stop at a gas station. Tun goes to the toilet and it's filthy. And as a man living in Thailand myself, I've never seen a gas station toilet with stalls. Just saying. Anyways, he smokes while sitting on the can and hears someone else come in. He sees them walk by, but he's chilling. You know, I guess. He puts out his cigarette on the toilet paper holder, so this guy's a monster. And then he notices he's out of toilet paper. So he asks the person in the next stall. They hand over toilet paper, but the hand is feminine. So Tun is freaked out. We then see him exit his stall. So he either A, pulled up his pants without wiping and is now walking with a shitty ass, or B, he took the toilet paper from the maybe ghost, wiped, and is now investigating the stall. He then kicks the stall door in, and it's a transgender woman. She asked if she can finish shitting first.
เขาขี้ก่อนได้ไหมคะ
So he apologizes and promptly dips. Back in the car, they stop for a moment and Tun sees in the rear view window Net. He looks again and he sees her. So he hits the gas. They're speeding until he looks over at Jane and he sees Net's ghost there outside the window flying. He looks again and she's right there in front or the back. I'm not sure. They spin off the road without crashing. We see Jane is confused and scared, but anyways, cut to the next day. We see they arrive where they were going to find Net. Eventually they find her house and her mom. They talk and Jane and Tun say that they're friends of Net and the mom says that she's not feeling well and that she's just taking her pills and is sleeping at the moment. The mom walks off to finish cooking, so Jane and Tun sneak off to check on Net. They see heaps of bottles of medicine or chemicals. I don't really know. Then they enter her room. They see her in bed. They turn her over and boo, it's a corpse. The mom then scares them and we get another conversation. So Net committed seppuku and the mom refuses to hold a funeral because she just can't let go of her daughter. They show her the ghost photos and she wishes that Net would visit her. She then asks if they know what happened to her. Tun then looks down in shame again, so Jane pleads with her to let them hold a funeral to put her soul at rest. So cut to the funeral. We hear some chatter about what happened and we learn that she jumped off the roof of her house and that her death left their mom a little crazed. The candles start malfunctioning, so we know that ghost shit is about to go down. Tun knows too, as we see Net behind him. She grabs Tun's shoulder and we cut to a hotel. Jane and Tun are sleeping, but Tun isn't doing much sleeping. Jane wakes and notices that, so they have a quick chat. Tun says that he didn't love her, but he believed that one day he would.
Rookie mistake.
He says after they split, he was a complete total dickwad and that he wants this to stop. And if he needs to die, then fuck it, he will. Cut to later. Tun is awoken, checks his room, but then he goes back to sleep until he notices his blanket is being pulled off of his body.
What? But by who?
No, not really. It's Net again. She's crawling up the bed. He goes to wake up Jane, but when he looks back, Net's gone. He checks under the bed, nothing. Then he looks to his left and boom! Net. He makes a run for it, but the door in the hallway is locked. Net is chasing after him while walking on the ceiling, and I think she looks fucking great here. It might look a little goofy without the audio, so listen to this. Tun then goes to run down the stairs and he slips and falls. He sees that he's still on the same floor and then he sees Jane standing there across the staircase. He runs to her and she asks where he went. Then she explodes, asking where the hell he went. She then holds up her wrist and it's actually Net, still on the 4th floor. Tun then runs and climbs out the window and climbs a ladder, but then he hears this thudding. He looks up and it's Net climbing upside down towards him. He then looks up again, but she's gone. He looks straight forward and she's right there. He slips and falls, but manages to hold on with one hand. Anyways, back to Net climbing down more. She just misses his hand as Tun falls off the building. Cut to him waking up in a hospital. Jane is asking what the hell happened and that Net's body will be cremated today. So cut to them attending the cremation. So ghost problem solved. Just needed to lay her down to rest is all. Easy peasy. Ghost problem over.
But not really, because the movie's still not over.
We then see Jane. We see she's picking up her and Tun's vacation photos and the shopkeeper says that there's something wrong with the photo. There's He says that she's getting fat. She then sees photos of them sitting on the couch from earlier. Tun's camera, which Net got him by the way, was sitting there. No cover over the lens, pointed at them while they were on the couch talking earlier in the movie. She sees in the photo a ghostly figure on the floor, and in each photo, it's getting closer and closer to the bookcase in Tun's apartment. She makes a flip book to show the movement because it looks cool, and then she goes to investigate the bookshelf. Some stuff falls over, and then she sees the book with some negatives hidden in them. She goes to develop them, and what she sees isn't good. We learn what Tun's friends did to her. So trigger warning, I guess. But one night they drunkenly came into the room at the university where she was. The wedding guy grabbed her, so she hit him over the head. He then tells the other guys there to hold her down as he, Tun then walks in and Jane asks why and how he could do this. She's crying, so now she knows what we could already see. Tun is a piece of shit now for more concrete reasons than what I said he was shitty for before. She goes to leave, but he stops her. We then see the flashback continue. Tun walks in on his friends. Wedding guy tells him to take photos so she won't tell anyone. Net is screaming for help, but he goes ahead and still takes the photos. Jane leaves, and later on we see Tun burning the photos. Now alone in his apartment, armed with only his Polaroid camera, he starts calling out to Net, telling her to show herself. He starts taking photos of the apartment to see her, and he does in every room, but nothing. He throws the camera on the ground, but then while on the ground, it takes a photo by itself. He goes to see and he drops the camera. We then get a montage of him throughout the film with his neck pain, and this is capped off with the magazine boss's quote saying that sometimes ghosts want to be close to the ones that they love. The photo shows Tun with Net's ghost sitting upon his shoulders. He sees her in the mirror, and then her ghost covers his eyes. He can't see and he's just stumbling around until he goes flying out the window. We then see his body on the pavement. Transition to Jane at the hospital. She goes to see Tun and he's in his room covered in bandages. We see Net is sitting on her shoulders in the reflection of the door as Jane walks in. They're now together forever. The end. So this was obviously inspired by Japanese horror films with the trope of black-haired woman and white ghost, with similarities to Kayako and Sadako, even so far as having Net appear hair first out of the sink. While not groundbreaking, I do believe that this film has a lot of merit and is wonderful. The ending reveal that she was with him the whole time in his shoulders really fucked me up the first time seeing this, and every repeat viewing is so cool to know the reveal going into it. Some shots are a little goofy, like with Net flying outside of the car, but to me that's some scary corny shit. I still love it. And while the conventions in the film are nothing new, I believe that they were executed well enough to be engaging throughout. Net's ghost is one that roams the earth to haunt the people who drove her to her death. Now, as I previously stated, this was clearly inspired by Japanese horror films, but that's not where this ends, because trust me here, because 4 years later after this film was released, an American remake of the same name was released. I now present to you 2008's Shudder. This film connects to Japan more, as instead of being set in Thailand like the original, they reframed the whole film to be a Japanese tale in the vein of the Grudge remake, because Japan is just so kawaii and cute and Americans eat that shit up. Anyways, let's speedrun this. So the movie opens with a wedding too, but this time it's between our main characters Ben and Jane. Tun is renamed to Ben because they sound similar, and Jane is already a Western name, so why change it? One quick thing to point out is that Jane's played by Rachel Taylor, who you might recognize as Hellcat from Netflix's Jessica Jones. So they get married, go to Japan to honeymoon, they drive to their cabin, and on the road they hit a woman who is now Japanese. Police come, but yeah, you know how it goes. Ben later complains of neck pain. Also, sorry, they're not here to honeymoon, they're here to live and work. This time Ben and Jane head off to see Ben's businessman friend, played by David Denham, the dad from Brightburn and Pam's ex from The Office. We also have this Japanese lady named Yoko, who clearly has slept with Ben. And isn't it weird how we have two Japanese ladies named Yoko in horror movies about black-haired ghost ladies that were white? Maybe it's not that weird. I don't know if Yoko's a common name. Whatever. I'm losing the point. Back to it. They go to their new apartment and they have PG-13 white people sex. Later they sleep and Jane has a dream of the woman she hit, and this film really lacks that sauce, you know? Like, the Taiwan had the sauce. This one just doesn't have it. Then we see Ben having more back problems and we see blurry ghost photos again. We see a chair in the studio that is probably where the essay happened, I guess. Anyways, we see Jane take a peek at Ben doing his work. Then she goes to explore Tokyo. She shows the photo that she took while exploring to Ben's assistant, who says that spirit photos, wow, and that her ex works at you guessed it, a magazine. Later on, they have dinner and she meets Ben's other friend. They're all creeps. Later on, they're taking photos outdoors with Ben's friend's building in the background, and the ghost shows up for a second. But fuck that noise, because let's get back to what we already know. The magazine place. The assistant and Jane go to do the talk that we already know, but this time the boss is a young Japanese guy. I hate shameless remakes that really still lack the touch, you know? Whatever. Anyways, he gives Jane the talk, but this time in English. It was at this point in the film I realized I may be biased, but regardless, let's keep going. Then the boss tells Jane about Polaroids and we get the credits.
Below the film, you push a shutter.
Just kidding. Bad joke. But anyways, red room scene. We get the same jump scare, but worse. This time water splashes on Ben's face that he sees as blood. But anyways, cut to Jane on a train. She stares at a Japanese child who looks out a window because white people be tripping. She turns to see this jump scare. She has a panic attack and we see her continuing her day. The ghost didn't haunt Jane much at all in the original. She didn't really care about justice. She just wanted Tun. But anyways, this time instead of a university, it's the office building of Ben's friend. Around 31 minutes in, Jane and Ben argue and we see that this guy is a dick.
I'm sorry, Jane, but Jesus, I'm just not your fucking father.
One addition to this movie is that the magazine boss told Jane about the spiritual medium guy who she goes to see later on. But now we get the doctor checkup again and the same shit happens. Then Jane wanders around more, staring at more Japanese children. We get the same fake out scare of Ben in the bedroom, but this time the room's not looking so red. This one I think is played out more dramatically, and when Ben walks back in, the room isn't empty. By more dramatic, I don't mean better as well. There's a lady sitting in the chair when he walks back in, with a fly crawling under her skin that comes out of her eyelid. Ben screams and Jane hears it through the phone, so she rushes back and sees him sitting in that chair. He jump scares her and then they have a chat. Apparently emotional energy can be conveyed through photos, I guess. They then go to the spiritual medium or whatever who says what the magazine boss already said. Then he lays his hand on some of the photos with the ghost blurs and then he freaks out. Ben brushes it off and heads off to work. Jane has no job, so she just investigates more. Also, this spirit medium is a new addition to the film, but I really don't think it adds anything more. Just the same shit again. She goes to the room that the ghost blur was covering of the building. There's some spooky light flickering in the building, so ghost shit is happening now. She takes some Polaroids and that's when she sees the ghost. It sneaks up on her and she guns it. The door slams. Picture frame falls. We know what's going on. This time around the ghost's name is Megumi Tanaka. Cut to the dark camera flash scene and this time it's the same around, except this time Jane is the one who turns on the light. Immediately confronting Ben about who the hell Megumi is. She was his translator when he first came to Japan and they recreate the exact shots from the original. She fell found love. Her father didn't approve this time. And also, she's played by actress Megumi Okina, who was in some of the Ju-on Grudge film. But anyways, this time she wasn't a weird girl. And instead, after her dad died, she took it hard and was a little emotionally unstable. So Ben thought it was too hard to deal with. So instead, he went to his friends. Bear in mind, Megumi was nowhere close to Net in how bad she took their breakup. Megumi's dad died. But Ben was just like,
Nah, too hard. Fuck it. Whatever. Just do it. Do whatever you
later
want.
on, Ben calls Pam's ex and he asks if he's seen Megumi recently. And he says, yeah, and that she's creepy. So he's been seeing her ghost. Cut to a new scene, brand new. This one has no similar one in the original. So we see Ben's other friend taking photos of a waitress in her underwear and a cowboy hat. He sees a ghostly figure behind the camera, which then reaches out to the camera, causing the screen to break and his eye to get cut out or something. I don't know. It looks embarrassing. And we don't even know if he dies for real because apparently later he's in a hospital. We don't see him, but he might not be dead here. Anyways, we see Roy, and yeah, I remember his name now. Pam's ex, Roy. He calls Ben to tell him what happened to their friend. We then see him hearing voices. Later on, Ben and Jane go to his to find him, and we see him being creepy and entranced. He then sprints and jumps off the balcony. We then get a super short car discussion scene, and they go home. They get ready to leave, but then Jane grabs a package at the door. Their wedding photos have the ghost in the background, so they decide to find the ghost because running would be pointless, since she was there before they even came to Japan. So they go to visit Megumi's house, and this time there's no mom, but still a corpse, this time with a bottle of cyanide beside it. I guess the mom wouldn't have added anything, but how the hell is this supposed just there empty with nothing? I don't know, fuck it. Anyways, cut to the hotel. They say the cremation is tomorrow, but how the fuck is that even possible? Like, I don't know, don't you need a family member or something? It is what it is, whatever. We get a little ghost forehead kiss in the hotel bed, and she appears in the hotel room. She shows off her leg and climbs into the hotel. She then begins to undress to show off her body, and then she puts her dress right on his face. She then disappears. Later, Ben washes his face and Megumi's back, brushing her hair. She then opens her eyes real wide and walks towards him, surrounded by flies.
So we're copying The Ring more, huh?
She reaches out and caresses him, and I think compared to the ceiling walk in the original, this one really fucking sucks. She then tongues him. Jane awakens, and then she goes to see that Ben's mouth is full of CG flies.
Get it? Like CGI, CG flies?
Whatever. The ghost then scares Jane with a curtain, and then she tells the ghost that he never loved her, to which the ghost takes badly, so she breaks a window over her head. But don't worry, because that doesn't cut her face up at all. Ben wakes up and then cut to the cremation. He goes down, and then we see that they move back to America right afterwards. Later on, Jane returns home with developed photos. In them, we see the photos taken after their wedding of them on the ground, and they show the same thing we've seen before of the ghost crawling towards something. This time, it's not a bookcase, and instead a photo of her on the wall. Jane investigates, and she stumbles upon the photos. What is it this time? An old camera with an SD card holding photos of. But this time, since it's an American audience who's watching, we don't see the act explicitly done the same way that they did in the Thai version. Ben runs home and we see the photos. Jane then slaps the fuck out of him hard enough that he slides across the floor a bit, and then he tells her what happened. So in this one, they drugged her, and this Ben looks way more emotionless when taking the photos. We see Jane leave as Ben yells more about how he's in denial and that he isn't at fault here. Jane then says that she wants a divorce and leaves. Ben is then scared, all alone. So he freaks out and does the photo scene. This time I think it's a bit funnier because he's angrier and he's like less of a character. But yeah, he throws the camera and then we get the montage and the reveal. He then takes a camera flash, breaks the ball, puts it to his neck, and electrocutes himself. Later we see him in a hospital room or something. Kind of looks like a prison. A nurse gives him a shot and leaves the room, and we see Megumi on his back in the reflection. The end again. So I'm obviously biased, but I think this time I have a solid bias. None of this is better than the original, and with the switch from Thailand to Japan, because the Japanese influence on the Thai original feels yucky to me. The director, Masayuki Ochiai, went on to later direct some of the later Ju-on films. I haven't seen him, but I think the series gets worse as it goes on. I'll probably watch him a bit later. So anyways, the original is good, and this one sucks doo-doo. Megumi isn't it, and Net is where it's at. I really think that Megumi loses lots of points because of her appearance. Not the actress herself, but the fact that she's just a woman. There's nothing unsettling about her. With Net, most of the time, she looks like a really fucked up corpse. And I know the presence of blood doesn't make something automatically scary, but having it is just a little bit unsettling. Maybe if they had Megumi with just a little blood on her, kind of like Kayako in how she looks like a real corpse, corpse with no blood in her. Or maybe even if they did something like Sadako where they cover her face with her hair or something, because this is literally just a woman. It's just like a little bit of it's just a woman who's like a tad bit pale. When she opens her eyes really big, her pupils are like pretty small, so I guess that could be creepy, but even then I don't think that's enough. Whatever. Anyways, so I've just made a Discord, so if you want you can join it to stay in the loop of videos, or to tell me that you hate my videos or hate me, or just talk about comics and movies, or even if you want to recommend me anything. Other than that, thanks for watching my Halloween horror themed content. Looking forward to making more videos throughout this year before it's over. But anyways, thanks for watching. Cheers.
I saw you shawty, now I want your friend. I want a baby, I need me a 10. Just wanna let, I don't care if you're 10. Probably didn't know what my brother's gonna say. Come on, Eddie, why'd you do that? She wanna come back and do that. You already know that I knew that. Sorry, baby, I'm a dog.